Hi, I'm Norleen, and in this video I'm going to read another chapter of my old fanfiction Xanna. Content warning, it's got some really old and outdated humor. Let's get started! Chapter 11. Whoa. It's already a trippy title, everyone. I don't get it. When I talk to Fanero and his friends, Cosmo and the others don't understand me, and when I talk to Cosmo, Fanero can understand me. I just don't get it. What's going on? Xanna asked herself as she sat on a dead tree stump, away from everyone else who were just sitting on the ground staring at each other. I don't know. This is the first time we've met the Alliance, so I just don't know. I'm gonna try to get them to talk to each other. Xanna got off of the stump and walked over to everyone. Khadga, could you try talking to Makoki, please? Khadga didn't say anything. Fanero lightly elbowed him. Khadga folded his arms over his chest. I'm not talking to any more filthy horde, he said, saying filthy horde as if it was the worst swear that there was, like he had been doing since Xanna awoke from the cocoon. Fanero rolled his eyes. I'll do it, Xanna. He smiled. Xanna went a little weak in the knees from hearing him say her name, and she mentally sighed a dreamy sigh. Izzy shook her head and smacked Xanna. Ow! What the hell? No, I agree with Izzy. That didn't last very long. It was like one chapter of them not flirting with each other. That's just out the window now. Because anime. Stop daydreaming and get them to talk to each other. Xanna glared at Izzy for a second, but quickly returned her attention to Fanero. Thank you, Fanero. The handsome night elf smiled some more. No problem. Xanna looked away so she wouldn't go weak in the knees again. Fanero frowned a little, but remembered that he was supposed to try to talk to her horde friends. He cleared his throat and looked at Makoki. Hello, how are you today? Xanna looked at Makoki to see what would happen. What did he just call my mother? Makoki jumped to his feet and tried to tackle Fanero. Ah, what'd I say? Fanero shouted and scooted away from Makoki. I don't know. Xanna turned to Makoki, who had to be held back by Oxel and Gishpek. What did you hear him say, Makoki? He called my mother a fat, stupid, ugly-ass man-cow. No, he didn't. He was just saying hi and asking how you were. Oh, yes, he did. Makoki yelled and summoned a fire totem. Xanna pulled a dead tree branch out of nowhere and smashed it back into the ground. Smack, smack, smack. Makoki, calm down, Gishpek yelled at his friend. Wait, I have an idea. Oh, now you come up with an idea? You know, after I've been rescued from the spiders? Shut up and listen. Fine. Xanna mentally folded her arms over her chest. What's your idea? Get the stud to talk to the sack of beef again, but listen to it as if you were talking to the fairy. Okay. Xanna looked at Fanero. Fanero, could you say that again? Why? So this cow can kill him? I knew it. You do want to kill us, horde scum, Khadga accused. No, this is another test. I'm not gonna let Makoki kill any of you. Now, Fanero, just please say that one more time. No! Khadga protested against this so-called test. Okay, Fanero said. He looked at Makoki and cleared his throat again. Now listen to him as if you were talking to the fairy. Xanna mentally nodded and pretended to be listening to Cosmo. Your mother is a fat, stupid, ugly-ass man-cow, Fanero said. See? He said it again! Makoki tried to get free from Oxel's and Gishpek's grasp so he could beat up Fanero, but failed. Let me go! He continued to struggle to get free. Xanna hit him on the head with the dead tree branch, knocking him out cold. Damn, everyone said. Oxel let go of Makoki, leaving Gishpek to drop to the ground with the 400-and-something-pound Tauren. Xanna, what's going on? Why is that night elf calling Makoki's mother a man-cow? I don't know. I need to go think about this some more. Xanna turned away from Oxel and went to go sit on the dead tree stump. Help! Gishpek said as she walked away. He was still being crushed by Makoki. Oh, oops. Sorry, Gizzy. Oxel walked over to Gishpek, who was slowly losing consciousness. I don't get it. Why would the guys hear Fanero say that? I mean, he's a nice guy. Even if they could understand each other, he wouldn't say that. Xanna looked at Fanero. He was trying to help Oxel get Makoki off of Gishpek, but Khadga pulled him away and said to not help the filthy horde. He's too nice to say something like that. You don't know if he's nice. He could be acting. He is not acting. Whatever. Just check the book. Maybe there's something about talking to each other in there, Izzy said as she watched Oxel and Moxa trying to pick Makoki up off of Gishpek. They weren't doing so well. Xanna pulled out the library book and began to look for something about how the Alliance speak. She looked and looked and looked, but couldn't find anything. I can't find anything about how they speak. Izzy looked away from everyone trying to pick Makoki up and looked at the book. She couldn't find anything either. Guess the people who wrote this book decided to not interview an Alliance and write about how they talk. It's probably because they would have been killed or killed the person they were interviewing. Xanna looked back at the others. They were still failing at picking up Makoki. How come they can't understand each other but I can? Maybe it's because you're half night elf, Izzy said as she watched Ezekiel get crushed by Makoki's left arm. Boss, I can't breathe! breathe. Yes, you can. You're just breathing beef sweat, Moxa said as Ezekiel tried to squirm his way out. After a minute, he stopped squirming. I don't think he's breathing anymore. We'll focus on that later. Right now, we need to focus on why they can't talk to each other as priorities. Izzy rolled her eyes. If you want them to talk to each other so much, then teach them how to talk to each other. Xanna gasped. Izzy, you're a genius! I know, she said, not paying attention to Xanna, who had run up to her and gave her a kiss on the cheek. Ah, it burns! Based off something I actually did with my cousin. Next scene of this fucking terrible fanfiction. After getting Makoki off of Gishpek and Ezekiel, Xanna had made everyone sit down next to each other, as if they were a classroom. Xanna looked to her horde friends. All right, you guys, she said and pulled a chalkboard, some sort of teaching stick, and a piece of chalk out of nowhere. Here's the game plan. Teaching stick, she said and began to write something on the board. Everyone tilted their heads, except for Cosmo. They were probably thinking about where those things came from, but Cosmo was wiping a tear from his eye, obviously proud that Xanna was able to pull random things out of nowhere. Once Xanna was done writing Language Class 101 on the chalkboard, she turned back to her horde friends. I'm gonna teach you guys how to speak to the Alliance, she turned to her Alliance friends, and I'm gonna teach you guys how to speak to the horde. Xanna looked at her class. Don't know how, but I'm gonna do it, she thought. Xanna pointed her teaching stick to Khadga. She pressed it to his nose. Khadga, I want you to say, your mother is a fat, stupid, ugly-ass man-cow to Makoki. Why? He said as he looked at the stick on his nose. Because, Xanna said, pulling the stick away from Khadga's nose, putting it behind her back, and then walking like she was a sergeant. That's what Makoki heard Finero say. So if you say that, maybe he'll hear you say what Finero was actually saying. Khadga folded his arms over his chest and rolled his eyes. This is just another idea to try and kill— Ow! He yelled because Finero had elbowed his side very hard. Then he began to glare at him. I refuse to speak to the filthy horde. It goes against my morals. Then why are you talking to me? Because my best friend is in love with you for some very strange reason. And until I can convince him to fall in love with someone from the Alliance, I will be forced to talk to you. But only you! I will not talk to your filthy horde friends! Khadga pointed a finger to Xanna's group. They all raised an eyebrow. What do you think he's saying? Oxo whispered to Cosmo. I don't know, but he's yelling and pointing at me. Cosmo gasped. He must be jealous of my outfit! I am not in love with her! Finero yelled at his friend, throwing his arms in the air. Khadga just kept his arms over his chest and stared at a dead tree instead of looking at him. Of course you're not, he said. Finero brought his arms back to his sides and made fists, glaring at his friend. Could one of you guys just say that, please? Xanna said, ignoring Cosmo talking about Khadga being jealous of his outfit. Khadga looked at Finero through the corner of his eye, giving him a I'm not doing it and that's final look. I'll do it, a tiny voice that came from the far right of the group said. Khadga, Finero, Sonya, and Xanna turned their heads to that direction. You will? They all asked. Sonya nodded. I've always wanted to know how to speak to the horde. Yeah, that first Sonya's meant to be Sophie. Fantastic. We now have our test subject, Xanna said and did the sergeant walk toward Makoki. She pointed the teaching stick at him. Sonya, please say your mother is a fat, stupid, ugly-ass man-cow to my friend. Okay. Sonya looked at Makoki and gulped. Your mother is a fat, stupid, ugly man-cow. She looked at Xanna. Did I say it right? Well, she left out the ass part, but other than that, I think she did pretty good. For a human, I mean. Because prejudice. Xanna ignored Izzy and looked at Makoki. What did you hear her say? Hello, how are you doing today? Why would she ask that when the night elf was making insults about my mother earlier? Yes, it worked! Izzy, you're such a genius! I know, but that doesn't mean you can kiss me again! Izzy said and hid behind a shield she pulled out of nowhere. Xanna ignored her and continued to cheer. After she was done, she turned to Makoki. Makoki, say what Sonya said to you to him. Xanna pointed the teaching stick to Finero's nose. What's with you and pointing that thing at people's noses? Shush! I'm teaching! This is important when you're teaching. Okay. Makoki turned to Finero. Hello, how are you doing today? Xanna looked at Finero to see what would happen. He was slowly lifting his hands up to feel his ears. What did you hear him say? He said I have abnormally large ears. He turned to Khadga. They aren't that big, are they? Well, they're not as big as your sister's, if that's what you're asking. Finero looked like he was going to cry, and Sophie put her hands on her hips. Our ears are not abnormally large. They are normal-sized for us elves. Xanna raised an eyebrow. Okay. She turned away for a second to feel her ears. Are kind of big. Stop being self-conscious about something as as the size of your ears and get back to teaching. Xanna mentally nodded and did what Izzy said, and Izzy was thinking of something evil. Another thing to make fun of. She rubbed her hands together, smiled evilly, and quietly laughed evilly. Because that sentence makes sense. Xanna turned to Makoki. Say, you have big ears. Makoki sighed and turned to Fanaro. You have big ears. Xanna turned to Fanaro. Why is he asking me how I am when he just insulted my ears? This is gonna be a long day and a long chapter. Next scene. This is my nephew. Xanna was sitting on the ground, one hand over her face. Okay, Cosmo. How do you say your hair is lovely and you have fantastic shoes? Cosmo sat up straight and cleared his throat. Xanna pretended to listen to him like she was talking to one of the Alliance. Your hair is lovely and you have fantastic shoes and your outfit is just to die for, Cosmo told Sophie. She giggled. Xanna lifted her head up out of her hand. He said it right. And not only did he say that, he tossed in an outfit compliment. How can you're a fat, ugly-ass bitch with fungus on your toes mean that? Makoki asked Cosmo. He shrugged. Xanna turned to Sophie. How do you say thank you? Xanna asked and immediately pretended to listen to a horde person. Thank you, Sophie said. Yes! Xanna cheered again. She began to do a victory dance in her mind. Sophie smiled because she had said it right. Her friends looked at her. How can you're a tomato head mean that? They all thought. They stopped thinking when something on Finaro's person began to ring. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a blue cell phone and looked at the caller ID. I'll be right back, he told Xanna and walked away. Xanna looked at everyone else. Yes, class is over. After she said that, everyone plopped over onto the ground. Finally, my tail is killing me. Makoki and Khadga said simultaneously. Fanaro came back and walked up to Sophie. That was her. She wants us to come back home for dinner. Xanna heard him whisper. Cosmo should have heard it too, but he was busy trying to get Neuraxis to stop flirting with Mittens. Leave her alone! She's not interested! Neuraxis ignored Cosmo and continued his flirting. That is just so gross! Neuraxis, stop flirting with that thing and get over here! Khadga commanded his pet. And you come over here, Mittens! Mittens immediately walked to Cosmo, and Neuraxis followed Mittens. Neuraxis! Khadga shouted at his pet. He ignored him and began to flirt with Mittens again. She hid behind Cosmo. He followed. Then she hid on Cosmo's front side. He still followed. After that, Mittens, Neuraxis, and Khadga ran in circles around Cosmo. Hey guys, cut it out! I'm getting dizzy! Fanaro rolled his eyes, then grabbed Khadga by his collar and grabbed Neuraxis by one of his front legs. Come on guys, we got to go! Thank God, Khadga mumbled as he wiped dust off of his shirt. Fanaro gave him a blank look while he wasn't looking. Then he was about to put Neuraxis back on the ground because he was squirming and trying to bite him. Don't! If you do that, he'll try to flirt with that elf's cat, Khadga whispered to his friend, pointing his left index finger at Cosmo behind his right hand. Whatever, let's just get going, Fanaro said and handed the squirming spider to Khadga. Yeah, don't get your ears in a bunch. The Draenei waved his free hand passively. Fanaro slowly reached a hand to touch his ear again. Sophie walked over and put it back down to his side. Meathead, she told Khadga. Sonya giggled. You're just jealous because I'm off the market. Khadga stuck his tongue out. Sophie rolled her eyes. Yeah, that's it, Khadga. Will you two stop bickering so we can get going? Fanaro asked. Sophie and Khadga shut their mouths. That's better, he said and turned to face the road. He gasped when he realized that he hadn't said goodbye to Xanna and her friends. Fanaro turned around and ran straight to Xanna. He picked up her hands and held them in his. She blushed a little and stared at her hands. She didn't even realize that the other guys were growling. Xanna. He took his hands away from her and took something off of his right ring finger. He placed it on Xanna's right ring finger. I want you to have this in case we never meet again. Xanna looked up at him. Never meet again? She said with a frown. Well, yeah, I got to go to Stormwind and you have to continue your road trip with your friends. You're going to Stormwind? Fanaro nodded. Yeah, I got this thing to do and that's cool. We're going to Stormwind too. What? Everyone else shouted. Oops, idiot. I knew it, Khadga yelled. She does want to go on a killing spree. I said let's take her to the guards, but you said no. Let's not take her to the guards. This is just proof that you are in love with her. I am not, Fanaro yelled back at his friend with a little blush going across his face. You are too. I can see it all over your face. Khadga pointed an accusing finger at Fanaro. Then he put both of his hands over his mouth, trying not to throw up. That's just nasty, man. Xanna opened her mouth in shock and placed her hands on her hips. She was about to say something when she was pulled aside by Makasa. Xanna, baby. Xanna stopped glaring at Khadga when Moxa had said that. Why are you taking us to Stormwind? Are you trying to kill us? I can see why you would want to kill Dathium, but there's no need to kill the rest of us. Okay, maybe Makoki and Akazil, but no reason to kill anyone else besides them. Xanna just raised an eyebrow at Moxa. Is this about the way I've been acting lately? Cause if it is, you could have told me. There was no need to drag us all the way out here to try and kill me. Moxa continued saying things about how there was no reason to kill him and how he would change his ways to be a better boyfriend. While he was saying that, the others were talking and Khadga was still yelling at Fanero. What is wrong with you, dude? How can you be in love with a blood elf? I am not in love with her. Xanna closed her eyes and put her left hand on her forehead. Too many voices. Make them stop, she thought. Everyone continued to talk. Khadga was saying things about how Fanero should meet a nice elf girl to fall in love with. Sophie and Sonia were talking about if Xanna would like to go to a beauty salon. Makoki was telling Gishpek that even though Xanna was trying to kill them, she was still hot. Moxa was still saying how he'll be a better boyfriend. Cosmo kept asking questions about why Xanna would take them to Stormwind and if she was feeling ill. He's definitely got some good priorities. And Oxel didn't say anything. And of course there's Izzy. Ha! I knew they would think you were trying to kill them. Man, this is just hilarious. I knew that today would be a good day. After a couple of bad weeks, always comes a good day. Xanna ignored Izzy, shut her eyes tighter, and put both of her hands on her ears. Shut up! Everyone just shut up! Everyone stopped talking and yelling to look at her. She sighed in relief. First thing, I am not trying to kill anyone! Poof, Khadga said, rolling his eyes and folding his arms over his chest. Second thing, the library book I've had since we've started this trip, Xanna said as she pulled the book out of one of her bags, is a book about the Alliance. She showed everyone the cover, mainly to her Horde friends because she had been with them the whole time, not the Alliance. I read some of it and the Alliance sounded interesting and I wanted to meet one. I got to the part about Stormwind and it sounded cool and I thought it would be fun to go there. I didn't know how to tell you guys. She lifted her left hand up to Cosmo and the other Horde guys. So I thought I would make it a road trip and things would just be fun. Xanna put the book back in her bag. And the third thing. Does anyone hear noises that sound like an army of angry spiders wanting to chase us to get their Spider King back, or is that just me? All of Xanna's friends raised an eyebrow at her, then turned around. Oh. So it wasn't just me. Great. Xanna and her friends stared at the army of angry spiders. They were all staring at Khadga and who he had captive. Khadga's eyes slowly went to look down at his right. His pet didn't seem to be unhappy about this at all. In fact, he looked as happy could be. Ungrateful little... He was mumbling, but Fanero lightly smacked his shoulder. Let's get out of here. Zonzon, don't fight! Cosmo was saying as he turned to see if she had passed out. That's actually really good friendship right there. All he saw was a dust cloud shaped like Xanna. That is not good friendship. Zonzon? Cosmo squinted his eyes to see if he could find her. She had run way ahead of the group. Zonzon, wait up! No! There is no way in hell I'm being taken away by those damn spiders again! She yelled back at her group. Cosmo was just speechless for a moment. Well, come on! Let's do what she's doing and get the hell out of here! Makoki yelled. Everyone nodded and then they all ran the way Xanna had. I also like Makoki. He's usually the one to be like, hey, let's fucking go! Next scene. Xanna was leaping over bushes, trees, stumps, dead children, and everything else in Duskwood to get away from those spiders. Running, 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 not looking back, just running, running, running. Ditching, 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 forgetting Dathium, just ditching, ditching, ditching. Xanna ducked under a low tree branch as she ran. I'm sure someone grabbed her head. Izzy looked back to see if the group was catching up. They were. Nope, think the sack of beef just decided to grab her again. Let me go, I gotta fight those spiders. Shut up. Yep, he grabbed her again. Xanna looked back over her shoulder. Thank goodness they decided to run. Look out! Izzy shouted. Xanna looked forward and hit her head on a low branch. Idiot. She watches enough horror movies to know not to look back while running, and yet she does it. Xanna! Oxel, Moxa, and Fanero shouted. Fanero began to run faster than everyone else and picked Xanna up. Come on, I know a shortcut to Elwyn Forest, he said quickly and went through some trees to his left. He's actually leading these guys to Stormwind? Edgar thought. He picked up Neuraxis, who had decided to run with the group. This is all your fault. Next scene. Fanero stopped in a nice and peaceful spot in Elwyn Forest. I think we lost them, he panted. Everyone turned around. They didn't see any spiders. They all sighed in relief. Cosmo walked over to Fanero, who was setting Xanna on the ground. Is she okay? Think so, but she's got a pretty nasty bump on her head, Fanero said as he lightly pushed aside some of Xanna's hair. Ugh, tell me about it. That knock to the head actually made my head hurt. Izzy rubbed her head as she talked to the emptiness in Xanna's mind. Cosmo lightly bit on one of his fingers when he saw the bump. Let me see it, Gishpek said. Maybe I can heal it. He walked over to Xanna and saw the bump. Ooh, that does look like a nasty bump. But don't worry, it's an easy fix. Cosmo stopped biting his finger and sighed in relief. Gishpek put his right hand on Xanna's forehead and began to heal the bump. It only took a couple of minutes. There, she's better. No, she's not. I still sense pain in her head, Sophie said, as he looked in the direction where she was standing. Is she talking about me? That's impossible because the bump is gone. Gishpek motioned his hand around Xanna's forehead. See? I know that she doesn't have a bump anymore, but there's something in her mind that is in pain. Izzy's eyes widened. Holy shit, how can she tell I'm here? That's a very good question. She backed away to a dark corner of Xanna's mind and tried to hide the pain in her head. I have no idea what you're talking about, Gishpek said and stood up. She's fine. Sophie made eye-to-eye contact with the troll. Fine, let her suffer. The two of them began to glare at each other. How about we just try to wake her up and see if she's okay? Moxa suggested. Sophie and Gishpek stopped glaring and walked away from each other. Sounds good to me, Cosmo said. He was about to shake her awake when his pink cell phone rang. He sighed, pulled it out of his pocket, and looked at it. Oh, muffins, he swore mentally. He opened up his cell phone and began to talk to the person on the other line. Hello? Cosmo, where are you? You're 13 hours late for work. It was your vacation week, not vacation week and 13 hours, Esteban yelled. Cosmo tried to think of something. He thought of playing sick and faked a cough. Sorry, Esteban, sir. I'm sick and couldn't come to work today. He faked another cough. I think I might be sick all week. Sorry, sir. You better be sorry. Now who am I gonna get to clean up after the fat guys in the steam room? Cosmo smiled wickedly. What about Clarence, sir? I think he's been slacking off a bit lately. Last week when you told him to clean the hot springs, he did, but only after he used them for his hot spring party. What? There was a noise on the other end. Clarence, you're cleaning up after the fat guys for this week. Cosmo's sick, and he told me about your little stunt with the hot springs, so you'll get only half of your paycheck this week. Cosmo heard on the other end. But, sir. No buts. Now get to work. Yes, sir, Clarence said sadly. That's what he gets for taking my cookie at lunch. Although, it still was a pretty cool party. I missed the tree. Cosmo heard another noise on the phone. Sorry for putting you on hold, Cosmo. I hope you get better soon. Cosmo coughed. Me too, sir. Bye. Cosmo hung up his cell phone. Everyone else was looking at him. What? That was a semi-important call. Oxel shook his head. Let's just wake her up. I mean, I guess he's got some of his priorities in order. He values his job, his place of work. Almost feel sad for Clarence, and apparently that's the party where Cosmo lost his virginity to a tree. On it, Dethium said and poured a giant bucket of water on Xanna. She didn't move. Dethium began to think of all sorts of ways to wake Xanna up. She tried some more water, kicking her, pulling her ears, setting her on fire. She tried everything. Damn, she's a heavy sleeper, Dethium said, but she didn't give up. I'm gonna get some worms and see if that'll wake her up. Why don't you just get them from your arms and legs? Moxa whispered to Makoki. They laughed quietly until Dethium pulled a couple of daggers out and put them to their necks. I heard that. How can you hear when you're dead? Moxa asked. Nice, Makoki said, and they high-fived each other. Orc, you're about to be an only child, and Troll, you're about to lose your cow. Dethium told Oxel and Gishpek right before she tackled Makoki and Moxa to the ground. They squealed like little girls. Take this! Dethium yelled and began to punch them. Gishpek got up to go help out his friends, but Oxel stopped him. Just let them work it out. Ow, my tail! Makoki shouted. Ow, my eye! Moxa shouted. Okay. While Dethium was kicking butt, Oxel, Cosmo, and Finero tried to wake Xanna up. Come on, Sanzon, you can't sleep all day. Yeah, you idiot, wake up! Ow, my head. Izzy grabbed her head. She still had a headache from the branch. She growled. Damn it, I hate you. I bet you would wake up if someone said there was a— What the hell is that? Izzy asked herself when the dream Xanna was having popped up. The dream was about her and Finero having a picnic. Izzy's eye began to twitch. Here we are, in Elwyn Forest. In Alliance Place, and she's having a dream about some hot guy she just met? Yeah, sounds like teenagers. Izzy pulled a bat out of nowhere and began to beat Xanna with it. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! She yelled, ignoring the major headache she still had. While she was beating Xanna, her dream began to skip forward a bit. This time it was about her and Finero getting married. Oh, good God! She smacked Xanna on the head with the bat. I do! Xanna shouted after bolting up from her sleep. You do what? Cosmo asked. I do not want Dethium to put worms on me, she said nervously. Can't really do that now since you're awake, Dethium said as she sat on top of Makoki and Moxa. Or Maybe I can. She smiled wickedly as she stared at Xanna. Cosmo pointed a finger at her. No! Dethium rolled her eyes under her belt. Whatever. While Cosmo and Oxel glared at Dethium, Fanero helped Xanna to her feet. Thanks, she smiled. No problem. They just smiled at each other for a moment, not even realizing that they were holding hands. So, what now, Xanna? Oxel said, getting up and standing next to Xanna, interrupting her moment with Fanero. Xanna gave him a little glare through the corner of her eye and let go of Fanero's hand. Well, we were heading towards Stormwind, and Fanero here knows how to get there, so... Xanna gave Fanero such a sweet and innocent look. He felt like his face was on fire because of his blush. Fanero, will you take us to Stormwind? She asked as he stared at her beautiful yellow eyes. Well, Xanna bat her eyelashes a couple of times. Please? She asked so sweetly. Fanero blushed a little more and started to do a goofy laugh. Sure. Based off of real things I did in my teenagehood. Absolutely not! Khadga shouted at them while Sophie was fixing the wounds Neuraxis had given to him earlier. There is no way in hell that I'm letting my best friend take a bunch of filthy horde to Stormwind! He yelled as he got up. I can't even believe that I let him bring you here! Look, can I talk to you for a sec? You know, over here? Being a cockblock. Fanero said as he pulled Khadga off to the side. Dude, what are you doing? Fanero did a whisper shout at his friend. Me? What are you doing? Khadga had pointed to himself, then poked Fanero's chest. Giving googly eyes to a horde? What's wrong with you? I don't care if you do that to Sonya because she's human, thus alliance. But why are you flirting and giving googly eyes to some blood elf? We're not flirting or giving each other googly eyes, and I never give Sonya googly eyes. Khadga folded his arms over his chest. Look, that girl's nice. She and their friends won't kill anyone. I'm not sure about the undead guy, but the others won't. I mean, they haven't killed us, have they? Not yet. They want to do it when we least expect it. Whatever, all she and her friends want to do is look around and that's it. After that, they'll leave. They won't kill anyone. Khadga sighed. Okay. Fine, take them to Stormwind, but when people start asking who let the horde in, I'm telling them it was you. Fine. Fine. Then I guess everything is fine then. Super fine. Fine as fine can be. Fine! Both of the boys stopped talking to each other and stalked back to the others. I'd love to take you there, Xanna. Fanero said as he looked at Khadga through the corner of his eye. Xanna faked a smile. It was hard to do a real one after hearing the two boys have a fight. Thanks! But first, we need to get you and your friends some disguises. Disguises? Xanna tilted her head. Fanero tried not to blush. Yes, disguises. There are guards in front of Stormwind and I doubt they'll let you walk past the gates, even if you mean no harm. Oh, okay. Where do we get these disguises? Just follow me, Fanero said and began to head east. Wait, Sonya said. I have to get these flowers back to my mom's store. Sophie, will you take me there? Of course, Sonya. Sonya smiled and grabbed Sophie's hand. We'll see you all later, Sophie said and walked away with Sonya. Dethium sighed in relief. Thank Illidan. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to put up with that human girl. She reeked of cheery and perkiness, she said, still sitting on top of Makoki and Moxa. Donna placed her face in her right hand and shook her head. I'll get them, Gishpek said. Thank you, Gizzy, Donna said, her face still in her hand. So you were just planning on running on into Stormwind, huh? No disguises, no secret way to get in, just go on in. Yep, that's teenage logic. That's anime. Hooray! Next scene! After forcing Dethium to get off of Makoki and Moxa, everyone followed Fanero to wherever he was taking them. Xanna looked around and smelled the air as they walked. This place is so beautiful. It reminds me of Eversong Forest. Beautiful, peaceful, and She shrieked and hopped into Fanero's arms. What the hell is that? Xanna pointed at the monster. It appears to be a spider, Miss Xanna, Gishpek answered. I know what it is, but I mean, what the hell is a spider doing in a forest? My teenage brain didn't know that spiders can live in forests. And that is my legit reaction that I had when I very first played in that area. It was so nice and pretty, and then what the fuck? Why are tarantulas here? Didn't we just come from a spider-infested forest? Moxa asked. I mean, what is a spider doing in a nice, happy, peaceful, and alive forest? Being a spider? Xanna glared at Moxa, not noticing that Oxel was glaring at Fanero for holding her. Don't worry, it's a low level and it won't hurt us. What level is it? Xanna asked. 6, Izzy said after looking up the spider in the book. And they call those forest spiders. 6, and we call them forest spiders, Fanero answered. Oh, thanks. You're welcome, Fanero and Izzy said at the same time. Did you say 6? Moxa asked. Yes, it's only a level 6 and it won't, Fanero was saying until the forest spider began to chase after Moxa. Ah! Run, boss, run! Ezekiel yelled. Oxel sighed, shook his head, and then chased after the spider. Oh. It will hurt us, Fanero said. Well, it'll hurt him at least, Makoki said. It's trying to eat my legs! Moxa shouted in the background. The spider was jacking him somewhere. Moxa made nail marks in the ground. Shut your whining, Oxel shouted at his brother and killed the spider with one hit of his sword. Moxa crawled out from under the dead spider, sat up and began to feel his legs. He felt for his penis. Phew. They're all there. Oxel rolled his eyes. Come on, let's get going. Poor Makaza, honestly, he's almost lost his genitals like twice now. That's a lot for a 14-year-old. Right, Finero and Xanna said at the same time. Then they realized that Finero was still holding Xanna. Both of them blushed. They both said. Khadgar rolled his eyes at them. Will you two stop making googly eyes at each other so we can go get your disguises? We're not making googly eyes, Finero stated. Right. Finero looked at himself. He felt like dancing because he had such a beautiful girl in his arms. But he would have to do that some other time. Put Xanna down and take her to get a disguise. He sighed and did as such. Come on, we need to go this way, he said, not looking at Xanna. She frowned a little because she didn't really want him to put her down. Man, I'm sure we all like being carried. Will you stop awing over this boy and get on with this stupid trip already? And no more trying to seduce him either. Seduce? No, she's making a point. Will you please take us to Stormwind, Finero? Izzy said in a mocking voice. Then she bat her eyelashes a couple times like Xanna had done. Please? Izzy stopped with the act and put her hands to her sides. Ring a bell? That wasn't seducing. That was simply using my sexiness to get him to do something I wanted him to do. I used that logic as a teenager. Izzy gave her a blank look. What? It was! Izzy rolled her eyes. Whatever. I know what seducing is when I see it. Technically, that's part of what seduction is, but greatly what it is manipulation. This time, Xanna rolled her eyes. And I know an annoying voice when I see it. Xanna told Izzy and began to follow Finero again. Cosmo walked up to her, placed a hand on her shoulder, and he pulled her to the back of the group. Zonzon, will you please stop trying to seduce that night elf boy? Told you. He should know what seducing is. He probably does it to guys all the time. And trees. I wasn't... trees. I know that you're probably thinking that I want him all to myself, but you're wrong. He's not my type. I just don't want my little Zonzon to get in trouble, okay? He said, cupping both sides of Xanna's face into his hands. She smiled. Let's just go get our disguises, silly. All right, but I'm serious, Zonzon. No more seducing that boy. He kissed the top of her head and grabbed one of her hands. I'm already having enough trouble with Mittens. Xanna raised an eyebrow. Cosmo pointed to his left. Neuraxis was trying to flirt with Mittens again. Gross, Izzy and Xanna thought. Neuraxis, what have I told you about flirting with that thing? Khadgar yelled at his pet. He came over, picked him up, and carried him away. Let's just go, Xanna said, not wanting to think about what a spider saw in a lioness. Next scene. After about an hour and a half of walking, Xanna and everyone finally reached where Finero was taking them. It was a big tower. Wait here, I'll be right back. Finero whispered to Xanna. Okay. She smiled. Cosmo cleared his throat, a way of saying, remember what I told you. Britishly. She gave him an irritated look without him noticing and watched Finero walk to the tower. Wonder what's inside. It's the Tower of Azora. It's filled with gnome mages, Izzy said, looking in the book. Wow, gnomes. Hope I get to meet one while we're in Stormwind. Next scene, cause that had to be a scene. What's up, my gnomies? Finero said when he walked into the tower. Yo, Fionn! A gnome told him and low-fived him. Hey, Fionn! Another one said and did the same. What's up, Fionn? Another gnome said and dapped his knuckles. This gnome was short, had a goofy gnome smile and big Dumbo ears like the rest, but he had blue eyes, blue spiked up hair, it kind of looked like a crown, and white skin. Yo, Simon, how's my brainsta doing today? And apparently we're getting another character. Not bad, not bad. How you doing today? Same. Hey, mind if I ask you a little favor? What is it? Remember that thing your dad made that turns people into the opposite of what they are? Man, I keep telling you that you're not gonna get into the girls' locker room by using that. You act too much like a guy even when you're a girl. No, not that one. But I might want it later. Anyways, I'm talking about the other one. You mean that? Yes. But why? You know, just for this thing. Dude, we've talked about this. The lions and the barons will eat you even if you did look like an undead guy. Well, it's not really for me. It's for a friend. Even if it was for a friend, I'm not sure my dad will let me borrow it. Please, Simon. Simon sighed. I'll go ask him. Been in a good mood lately, so he might say yes. And if he says no? You and your friend can't have it. But Simon... Sorry, Finn, but there's no convincing my dad to say yes once he says no. And vice versa. Simon shuddered. I'll never forget that day. So many grannies. Bunny hopping. Just go talk to your dad. Right, Simon said, coming out of his flashback. I'll be back in a minute. He hopped off of the stool he was on and walked to the next room. room. Fanaro tapped his foot while he waited. Hi, Fan. A female voice from behind him said. Shit. He thought and turned around slowly. There was a female gnome smiling at him. She had big, blue, poofy pigtails, white skin, green eyes, and a sweet face. But Fanaro knew it was anything but. Hi, Margaret. Margaret smiled and climbed onto the empty stool next to him. What you doing here? I was just talking to your brother. About what? Margaret asked, scooting the stool a little closer. About this thing. What thing? She asked, playing with her hair and looking at him with a twinkle in her eye. Just a thing, Fanaro said, backing away a little bit. Hurry up, Simon. Fan, over here! Simon called from the other room. Fanaro sighed in relief. Gotta go, Margie, later, he said quickly and ran to the other room. Margaret pouted when he left. I wanted to fuck him! Next scene. Fanaro slammed the door shut, leaned on it, and sighed in relief again. My dad wants to know why you want it, Simon told him. Yes, why do you want this? A male gnome asked Fanaro and fidgeted with a little orb-looking thing. The gnome was the same height as all of the other gnomes and had big ears like them, but he had blue eyes like Simon, white skin like him, white hair. His hairdo made him look like a mad scientist going bald, and he had a white pointy mustache and scruffy goatee. What we're learning is that Simon and his father are albinos and all the other gnomes are not. I need it for a friend, Fanaro said. Why does your friend need it? Is there any way that I can get that thing without having to tell you why I need it? Simon's father shook his head. Fanaro sighed. Can you guys keep a secret? Next scene. Blue guy, if you don't get that thing away from my mittens, I will break its legs! Cosmo shouted as he ran in circles, carrying mittens on his back and running away from Neuraxis. Neuraxis, stop! Cadgus shouted as he chased after his pet. And you have no right to order me around, you filthy horde! My pet can do whatever the hell he wants! If that's true, then why are you trying so hard to stop him from chasing Cosmo and Mittens? Gishpek asked. You stay out of this! Xanna rolled her eyes at the boys while she made a little flower crown. She added a couple more flowers and put it on her head. Aw, you look cute wearing that, Son, Cosmo told her as he continued running. Mittens looked down at Neuraxis and hissed. That didn't stop him from chasing her. He started to try and jump to her. Go away! Cosmo yelled at the spider. Hey, don't yell at my pet! Well, if you were a good hunter, your pet would listen to you and wouldn't need me to yell at it! What's that supposed to mean? It means the way it sounds. Geez, I guess you are as dumb as you look. You are so getting an ass kicking when I get my hands on you, filthy horde! Xanna on the other side. Didn't he say that he didn't talk to the filthy horde? Yeah, but he's not talking to the fairy. He's yelling. Can't you tell the difference? Xanna rolled her eyes and messed with her flower crown some more. She didn't mess with it for too long. It was because of Cosmo and Cadga, of course. Will you two knock it off already? You're giving me a headache! Xanna shouted at the two. Yeah, and they're making my headache worse! Izzy said and put an ice pack on her forehead. Xanna was gonna laugh at Izzy and say that she kinda deserved this, but her ear twitched. She turned around and smiled when she saw Fanaro. Her smile went away when she saw two little people walking with him. What are those? Izzy sat up on the bed in Xanna's mind to see. Gnomes, she said and laid back down. Wait, gnomes? Izzy sat back up. Why did he bring gnomes? Fanaro walked up to Xanna. This is my friend Simon and his dad Henry. He leaned a little closer to her. This was the only way I could get his dad to give me the disguises, he whispered. Xanna nodded. Okay, she whispered back. Izzy mentally threw the ice pack at her when Fanaro backed away from her face area. Stop seducing! I wasn't! She yelled and threw the ice pack back. Ow! Bitch! Xanna ignored Izzy and watched Henry put on some glasses, making his already big eyes look even bigger. The little gnome blinked a few times. So you were telling the truth. Yep, Fanaro said. Can I have the orb now? Hey, where did he go? Fanaro looked for Henry and saw that he was standing next to Xanna, poking her leg. Fascinating, he said. He repeated this to the others. So fascinating. Cosmo giggled when Henry had poked the back of his knee. Fascinating. Is that the only freaking word he could say? Izzy yelled, ice pack on her head again. Xanna mentally shrugged. You're short. Xanna looked around to see who had said that, then looked down. Me? She asked the other gnome, known as Simon. Yeah, you. I wouldn't be talking there too much, shortstop. I've seen plenty of Blood Elves raid Stormwind before. All of them were taller than you are. Damn, that's really saying something if a gnome is calling you short. Izzy laughed. Xanna's eye twitched a little. She felt like kicking the little gnome like a football. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. I never ate my greens, okay? She leaned down a little and began to mess with Simon's ears. That's probably your problem too, or else you wouldn't have these ears. She lightly tugged on his right ear. My word, she could speak alliance? Henry said and walked back over to Xanna, leaving Cosmo laughing on the ground. He began to look at her and poke her again.
All of the other blood elves I've seen could never speak like we do.
He looked at her eyes.
And they all had green eyes, not yellow. This is how we do science.
Fanaro raised an eyebrow. So, the girl blood elves and the guy blood elves have green eyes? Henry nodded as he used his right hand to open Xanna's left eye and used his other hand to hold up a little flashlight he had been keeping in his pocket.
Amazing,
he said and put away the flashlight. If that's true, then why does she have yellow eyes? And how can she speak to us? Kadya asked. Did she kill an alliance and steal their eyes and vocal cords or something weird like that? I'm half night elf, you jerk, Xanna said as Henry climbed on her back like a monkey and looked at the back of her neck. She folded her arms over her chest and looked away from him and glanced at Fanaro through the corner of her eye. He looked speechless and that he was rethinking about their whole flirting thing. Because as unintentional as it is, apparently he's softly prejudiced because he doesn't want to date any alliance and strictly horde only. I mean, everybody's got their type. Kadga's eyes widened. You're half night elf, Xanna repeated. You gonna sue me now? Kadga was speechless. He didn't know if he should respect Xanna and let Fanaro flirt with her all he wanted, or if he should hate her and treat her like all of the other filthy horde in the world, and maybe hook Fanaro up with some random girl at the soda parlor. At least he's upfront about his prejudice.
Absolutely amazing,
Henry said. Izzy sighed and grabbed a bat. Let me take control, cause I'm Freddy Krueger and this is gonna go into the real world with me.
Young lady.
Xanna.
Pardon?
My name is Xanna.
Oh yes, Xanna. Did you know that you had a mark on the back of your neck?
Crazy bald gnome say what? A mark? Xanna asked as everyone surrounded the back of her neck. Okay, feeling a bit uncomfortable. You're telling me, Izzy said as she stared at Henry's giant gnome eyes.
Yes, a mark.
Let me see, Cosmo and Simon said. Cosmo picked Simon up and they joined the group and looked at the mark. Son, you never told me that you got a tattoo. Henry looked at Cosmo.
Great Scott, you can speak Alliance too?
They all can. I taught them how, Xanna said.
You can teach?
Henry asked.
Yes, we can also read, breathe, and talk at the same time,
Dethium said.
Amazing, ain't it? Quite.
Henry nodded and looked back at the mark. Dethium began to pull out a dagger, but Makoki stopped her. I am way more on the ship for Makoki and Dethium than I am for Kadga and Dethium. What's the mark look like? Xanna asked. It looks like a raindrop with a little circle under it, Cosmo answered. Xanna thought of the mark. It led to thinking of all the times she went to the lake in Eversong Forest to go cry. It's not a raindrop, it's a teardrop, she thought. That's clearly self-projection. She has no physical control over what it looks like. Izzy placed a hand on her chin. How have I not noticed this mark at all? I guess because she never looked at Xanna's neck. Xanna was saying in her mind, but let out a little squeal when someone had touched the back of her neck. Cold hands! Sorry, Fanaro said and took his hand away from the mark. Son, you have to tell me where you got this tattoo. And after that, get rid of the tattoo. No son of mine is going to walk around with a tattoo on any body part just so silly boys can stare at said body part. It's not a tattoo, and even if it was, who cares? It's just on the back of my neck. Sure, it starts out on the back of the neck, but soon it'll be the shoulder, then the chest, then the stomach, then the leg, the thigh, and the next thing you know, you go to a club, end up talking to this guy named Jerry, going to the Silvermoon City Spa, somehow getting your apple juice spiked, and getting your heart broken by the only tree I'll ever love. Everyone slowly turned their heads to look at Cosmo. So I've heard. Izzy slowly reached up to grab her head. I think I have a tumor. We'll fix your cancer later. Right now we have to get this group away from my neck, get Cosmo some therapy and maybe a relationship specialist, get our disguises, go to Stormwind, look around, and marry Fanaro! Izzy grabbed her ice pack. Yeah, good luck with that, she said and laid down on the bed in Xanna's mind. Aw, you're not gonna help? Xanna asked with a sad puppy dog face. It still hurts from that damn tree branch. Xanna was about to beg Izzy to get over her headache and help her live happily ever after with Fanaro. Instead of thinking about how this was the first headache Izzy had ever received and that it was not good, when someone touched her back. She let out a little squeal. She knew it wasn't Fanaro's hand this time. Who's touching my back? Sorry, Moxa said and took his hand away. Thought I saw something crawl up your back. Oh, yeah, something did, and it was called your hand. Stop being stupid. He was just making sure that someone else is now touching my back and is slowly rubbing it, and who is it? Izzy looked up to see who it was. Her eyes widened, then she burst out into laughter. Well, that can't be good, Xanna quietly sighed. Who's rubbing my back? Everyone looked down to see a blue hand on Xanna's back. Then they looked at the person's face. What? I'm just making sure she has a spine, Kadga said. Xanna mentally shook her head and placed her face in her right hand. Have I ever mentioned anything about how these people are Xanna punched Izzy's forehead with her left hand. Shut it, she said as Izzy twitched on the ground. It's more of convulsing. This is gonna be a long trip. Just like this fanfiction. Final scene. Everyone stared at the back of Xanna's neck for a good 45 minutes. Okay, can you guys stop staring at the back of my neck? I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable. Starting? Yeah, you guys should back off and stop staring at my little Zonzon's tattoo, Cosmo said as he got in front of everyone, blocking the mark of the back of Xanna's neck. It's not a tattoo. You're still getting rid of it so boys won't stare at you. And don't even try to think of getting another one in a different place. But it's not a— Xanna was saying as she turned around to face Cosmo and tell him that the mark wasn't a tattoo. He held up his hand. I don't want to hear it. As soon as we get back to Eversong, it's gone. But don't want to hear it. But Cosmo, it's not a— Cosmo placed a hand on Xanna's mouth. My mind has been made up, Zonzon. The tattoo is going. Xanna sighed and removed his hand. Let's just get our disguises.
Oh yes, your disguises,
Henry said and began to fish for something in his pockets.
I know I have it here somewhere.
He fished a little more.
Aha!
He pulled out a little orb-looking thing.
Here it is.
He smiled.
One of my favorite creations that he made on accident,
Simon said.
Quiet you.
Simon shrugged. Ooh, it's shiny. Can I touch it? Cosmo said as he reached out a finger to poke the shiny orb.
No!
Henry yanked the orb away. Cosmo frowned because he couldn't touch the shiny thing. Sad little British elf.
It's very fragile and I don't want anyone to touch it,
he said as he wiped dust off of it.
Not even my own children.
Oh, Cosmo said, still frowning from not being able to touch the shiny thing. So how's this thing work? Deathium said and grabbed the orb from Henry's tiny hands.
Ah! Don't touch it!
Henry yelled and began to hop up and down. Deathium said as she looked at the orb. Is there supposed to be a button or something?
No, it works in a very specific way. Now give it back.
Well, then how does it work? Deathium said and began to tap on the orb.
Ah!
Henry climbed on Deathium's back to get the orb back. Get off me, you little monkey! Deathium began to spin around to get Henry off of her back. It didn't work out so well. Alright, you want to play hardball? I'll give you hardball! Deathium plopped down on her back and began to crush Henry. Everyone's eyes widened as they watched Henry and Deathium fight over the orb. No matter how much I like Deathium and think she's a genius, she's an idiot. Doing that to the little monkey gnome is probably going to get us killed. Yeah.
Aha! I've got it!
Henry cheered. Simon tapped on his shoulder.
Dad? Yes, Simon, my boy? That's not the orb. That's his head.
Henry looked at the thing he had in his hand. It was a head. That. Whoa. Definitely a spelling error. I'm a girl, you dumbass! Henry gasped and dropped the head. After he had done that, it tried to bite him.
Ah! Simon, my boy! Help me!
Simon rolled his eyes and cast a spell to freeze Deathium's head.
Thank you, my boy.
Henry panted as he walked over to Simon and patted his shoulder.
No problemo, Dad.
Henry nodded and straightened up.
Now to get the orb back from his body.
I'm a girl, damn it! Deathium shouted.
Of course you are.
Henry said as he walked over to Deathium's body, which was running into a tree, to get the orb. He looked at her hands and there was nothing there.
Where in the blazes?
Here, Finero, a female voice said. Henry turned around. Thanks, I guess, Finero said as he bent down to receive the orb from the female gnome.
Margaret! What are you doing here? I thought you were out with your mother!
Grocery shopping with Mom was boring, so I went to the Tower of Azor to bug Simon, but I bumped into Fionn instead. Margaret gave a little wink to Finero, shuddered a little.
I don't care how boring it is. Go back to the store and find your mother!
Henry commanded his daughter. Then he looked at Simon.
You go with her and keep an eye on her. But Dad, I wanted to make fun of the elf's ears!
Simon complained and pointed at Cosmo. What's wrong with my ears? He asked as Simon walked away with Margaret, who gave another wink to Finero. The same thing that's wrong with you entirely, Deathium and Khadga said. They looked at each other for a moment. Deathium raised her right eyebrow while Khadga raised his left. Then they both stuck their tongues out at each other. Makoki rolled his eyes, walked over, and put Deathium's head back on her body. See, right there. It's supposed to be about how Khadga and Deathium were meant for each other bullshit. But here's fucking Makoki coming all up handling this shit. I would like to see that. But spoiler alert, that doesn't happen. Will you two stop playing mirror for a second? We got some work to do. Deathium smacked Makoki. Don't manhandle me. If anyone is gonna manhandle someone, it's gonna be me. Deathium pointed her thumb at her chest. Ugh, don't do that, Makoki said. Why not? Because I follow your thumb, and when you point it at your chest, all I see is nasty, rotting, purplish, decaying bones instead of nice, little, pink, round Oxel smacked Makoki. Ow! What'd I say? You know what? No, I don't, or else I wouldn't have asked. Don't get smart with me. Don't smack me! Makoki and Oxel began to argue. Dethium pulled some popcorn out of nowhere, because being around Xanna gives people these abilities, and munched on it as she watched them argue. She began to laugh when Cosmo, Moxa, Ezekiel, and Gishpet got involved. Xanna sighed and walked over to Fanera and Henry. May we please have the disguises, Mr. Henry, sir? Henry gave her a look.
Why, that undead man tried to attack me!
I know, but she just has anger issues. I mean, come on. Do you really think that my group is organized enough to raid Stormwind? Xanna motioned her arms to the giant wrestling pile and the crazy, laughing undead woman.
I suppose not.
So can we? Xanna gave Henry the puppy dog look, trying to increase her chances of getting the disguises her and her group needed.
Only as long as you keep your group under control and if Katja Jr. over there is your guide.
Katja's a junior?
Yes, he is the son of one of our greatest paladins, Katja Sr.
Spoiler alert, not fucking important, but wouldn't that have been interesting to have seen? Cool, but why can't Fanero be our guide? Both Xanna and Henry looked at Fanero. Then Henry motioned Xanna to bend down. She did, and Henry whispered in her ear.
I don't trust him.
Why?
For some reason, my daughter is fascinated with that boy, and I'm afraid he might try to take advantage of her.
You know I can hear you, right? Fanero asked.
Oh, cheese and crackers.
Like, it's the two of them right here at the front of the screen, and he's just literally right there, standing in the background. Elf, able to hear better. He's fine, I understand. Fanero laughed.
Yes, it's funny. Now give me the orb of deception.
Henry held out his hand for the orb. Fanero stopped laughing and gave it to him.
Gather round, horned children. I am going to give you your disguises.
All of them stopped beating each other up and walked over. Hooray! Costumes! I love dressing up! Cosmo cheered.
No, these are not just any ordinary costumes, my dear.
I'm a boy.
Of course you are. Anyway, these are magical. They will turn you all into alliance for 6 hours. Once your 6 hours is up, you better be out of Stormwind or else.
Or else what?
Or else they'll kill you, of course.
Oh. Yeah. Just shut up and show me how that thing works, Dethium said. Henry gave her a little glare.
Alright, this is how it works,
Henry said. Everyone leaned in a little closer to see how the amazing shiny object worked. All he did was squeeze it like a stress ball.
That's it,
Dethium said.
Yes, it was supposed to be a stress ball, but there were many problems and I accidentally made this. Now be quiet and count to 3.
Why should we? Dethium was saying. 1, Xanna and Cosmo said. 2, they said. 3, everyone said. There was a burst of light from the orb. What's happening? Cosmo shouted and grabbed on the closest thing he could find.
Just stay calm,
Henry shouted. I can't see anything! Moxa shouted. I'm blind!
Just a couple more seconds,
Henry shouted. The light stayed for 5 more seconds, then went away. Whoa, Cadga and Fanero said. Xanna and her friends rubbed their eyes so they could see clearly. Whoa, they all said. We might live after all. That was the end of chapter 11. Oh my god, it was fucking long. Both of these last 2 chapters were fucking long. I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't picked up on it already, because of how shit's been going. I have actually been recording chapter 11 on several different days. They were not all done on the same day like almost every other chapter has been. I might have done it a little bit on chapter 10 as well, but chapter 11 has taken a month of separate recording sessions, but I tried to keep it as consistent as possible. It's definitely got my interest. Let's get on to the review. Writing style, 0. Spelling, grammar, and punctuation, 0. I think I'm really gonna change the stats like when season 2 happens and really add in those negative points. There's going to be 0 to 5 and there's going to be 0 to negative 5. Plot. This chapter wasn't as interesting as chapter 10 because it did go back to the default fuckery and flirtations, but it still does have my attention because we're about to go somewhere. They've got their disguises and blah blah blah. They make for a great average anime, which is what I was shooting for to begin with when I was writing this, so I'm definitely hitting the mark with what what I was shooting for. Doesn't really necessarily make it good, though, just because I hit my mark. I didn't realize that this was a bad mark. I should have been aiming a little higher. But nevertheless, it's getting a 1 out of 5 because it's going somewhere. Literally. Characters, what was it, a 2 out of 5 last time? I'm gonna give them a 1 out of 5 this time for the obvious reasons. There's still too much flirtations, even though that's definitely common with teenagers, but still mixing it up. Again, that's tied in with how the plot is going. Entertainment, 5 out of 5. I'm definitely entertained. I want to keep reading. Overall, I'll put it down here. It's not as much as it is for chapter 10, but these last 2 chapters have definitely received the highest scores out of all the ones that I've given of this season, which, yes, I'm calling it a season. It's the end of season 1 of Xanna. It's 44 chapters. I'm going to split them into 4 different seasons, 11 episodes a season, and I hope that will be okay with everyone, and I will also try to do some other stuff for my channel. Thank you so much for being here with me. Be sure to leave comments down below, start up conversations, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for being here. May the peace be with you.